Tammy Tragus-McCook. I'm your instructor, and I am meeting today with the owners of Lavelles Taphouse, your client for the social media class. So we have with us Brett Swanson and Arlette Eagle Lavelle, and they're going to tell us a little bit about what happens here at Lavelles Taphouse.
Yes.
So tell us, I've not been here before, it's my first time, I'm ashamed to say, and I know the students will come in, but tell us what happens here and what your vision was and what goes on.
So I think our main vision was to provide a comfortable, happy environment for locals and travelers alike to come enjoy a cold beverage, whether it be cider, beer, wine, a non-alcoholic beverage, enjoy some Alaskan art that we've chose to put on the walls, and really kind of ask us anything that they want about our products that we have or the environment that we've set up for everyone to experience.
Okay. What do you think is unique about Lavelles Taphouse?
I don't think there's really, I like to think that we created this new market that wasn't available in Fairbanks before we opened up, where you can come to this family-friendly entity that is smoke-free. We don't offer food, but you're welcome to bring your own, and whatever that means to you, whether it's bringing a Subway sandwich with you, or I've had people bring crock pots in here. It's pretty interesting. To watch a sports game, to meet for a meeting, kind of like that coffee shop concept of an interview, or just to come have a beer, cider, or wine. And I don't know, it's been just a great success so far, and we've been really happy about it.
And we were talking, this is your 7-month anniversary
Yep.
for our opening. Opened in late July of 2016.
Late January.
January.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I can't count. Okay, so tell me about, I walked in and see this wonderful digital signage. You have 36 available products. So tell us a little bit about your best sellers and what a person can find on the menu.
So I think, just to add slightly to what Brett said about the uniqueness of the environment, is that we have 36 rotating taps. So for the most part, you'll never find the same beer on tap. We often get return customers that are looking at the menu and, what did I have last time? I remember it was this IPA, or it was this lighter beer, darker beer. And I quite often have to remind them that what they had before might not still be here, which some of them are super disappointed about, but most of them find that opportunity to try something else that might spark their interest just as much or more than before. So we made sure that we are making everyone happy, whether it's the die-hard Coors Light drinkers or those that want a non-alcoholic drink option on tap. We also always have at least one non-alcoholic option. Right now it's a local to Alaska, Glacier Brew House root beer, which is great for kids, for adults, for anyone that just wants to sip on something really refreshing but might not want
a woman who might be expecting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, very much.
And with that, people have brought in ice cream and made their own root beer floats, and so people are
very
creative.
Flexible.
Yes,
Yeah.
Endless options.
Okay, and it's located downtown in Fairbanks, and that's a great location.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had 7 months you've had your vision. You opened the tap house, and you've had 7 months to think. And what is your vision for the next year, do you think? Would you keep everything the same? Is there anything you want to add?
I think I'll let Brett kind of expand on this, but we're heading into football season, which is a very busy time for a lot of people. And with that said, we are kind of, experiencing changes as we're going every day. But with football season starting in early September, we've really put some thought into how are we going to get more clients in on Sunday morning when, we're not a destination that people come for breakfast, because we don't offer food. But I'll let you expand on the options that we're going to.
Yeah, so to me, in Alaska, the East Coast football games, are starting at 9 a.m. here if it's 1 p.m. on the East Coast. So in Alaska, the state law, you're not allowed to serve any alcohol till 10 a.m. And thus, the game starting at 9 a.m., to me it was like, well, the fan that doesn't want to watch from home, that wants to go somewhere, they're going to go somewhere that serves food, like say the Oasis would be a example. And then once a Bloody Mary, a mimosa, a beer was able to be served at 10, you know, they'd have 8 and then finish watching the game about 3 hours long. Unlikely they would leave to come, say, to the Taphouse middle of the game because, oh, now they serve beer, but, you know, they don't have food there, so we came here. So it was like, okay, we need to sit down at the drawing board and figure out how do we make this a place for people to come even though we don't serve food ourselves. So we have a few different relationships with local food trucks, and we've partnered up with this woman who runs Alaskana Kitchen, and she's gonna be here at 8:30 a.m. making like a brunch breakfast extravaganza, really. She has some fantastic items that are so much more vast than just like a bagel sandwich with bacon. And so we can't wait. September 11th is gonna be the first Sunday, and not only are we going to have her, we're going to have another entity called AK
Cruise and Coffee.
AK Cruise and Coffee, a separate food coffee truck. And so, of course, we're going to have our non-alcoholics available, but not only will you be able to get breakfast, you'll be able to get a great espresso or whatever kind of coffee drink you're looking for. And to us, that's really going to be a game changer for the football season and make us a destination that's going to be super unique to be able to, hey, let's go there at 9 a.m. for the first game. So we're going to be opening on Sundays at 8:30 a.m. And then, you know, after an hour and a half, you'll be able to order your beer, cider, wine, Bloody Mary, etc. So that's a current vision that we've really like thought about and are excited about.
I love the food truck idea. That sounds wonderful. And I'm sure you'll use social media to push that out.
For sure.
And you talked a little bit about people going to the Oasis, so let's talk about your competitors. Who do you feel your competitors are in Fairbanks, and why do you feel so?
I would say, I think we kind of stand in a league of our own just because of our concept being so different than anything that you can find in town. I had a very hard time when it came to open up this business as far as sitting in front of the city council and convincing really our downtown association and city that there should be another liquor license placed in this area. In the pipeline days, the 70s, this area was full of bars all over 2nd Avenue especially. So when those bars went out of business, there was kind of this concept of buying up those licenses and spreading them throughout the borough as opposed to inside the city limits. So that being said, it was hard for me to even get this specific license placed at this location downtown. We often go out to explore the competition or places that we just want to see what's going on. You know, what beers are you serving? How are you serving them? Are you rotating? What's your cooler situation like? Who do you show more love to as far as distributing goes? So we really try to get out there and get a feel for the competition, our main competition. And I would say, you know, as far as hardcore beer drinkers go, or people that are wanting to really get a lot of beer tasting under their belt, experience new things, we stand in a league of our own as far as the rotational taps that we have. I mean, if you go to other entities that have about as many beers that we do on tap, they're not rotating. They're always staying the same, which is good for a lot of folks. You know exactly what to expect when you get there. You know that they're gonna have your IPA from wherever it might be on tap, and you're gonna get that same beer every single time. With us, it's just different in the fact that you might have to stretch a little bit outside of your limits. With that said, I will say that we do see a lot of Hoodoo clientele. Hoodoo's not open on Sunday or Monday, so even the ownership of Hoodoo is very open to sending their customers our direction. We have one of their beers on tap at all times, so they have a dedicated line in the cooler. And we have a unique relationship in that we will allow them to really bring over whatever beer they see fit for us. Sometimes it's their traditional Kolsch or IPA. It will sometimes be beers that they don't even have on tap in their own tap rooms. So coming over here for their really hardcore clients over there is an option here as well. I would say, you know, being in a league of our own, but also kind of dipping our foot in the water in other entities. There are a lot of other places that have many beers on tap, and we're very supportive of all of them. So it's important for us to just kind of stay together uniquely as like a Fairbanks kind of community-driven establishment. But I'd like to think that we don't have a lot of competition when it comes to the service that we are providing.
In theory, anywhere that's serving beer would be seen as someone that's competition in my eyes, but at the same time, she references places that have like a menu that stays pretty consistent. Somewhere like the Banks Ale House has 40-something taps, and their main focus is Alaskan beers. And while we love Alaskan beers and want to support Alaskan breweries also, and we always have 5 or 6 Alaskan taps constantly rotating, it's like we want to set ourselves apart as being somewhere that you can come try all these other kinds of styles that you can't find at every other location in town. So that's where we have this niche market of constant change, and that's where the digital menu is so helpful for us and beneficial. Is, oh, this blue, she goes to the computer, I say I'm putting this beer on, she just punches it in, and all of a sudden it changes up there. Whereas if you have a paper menu, you know, it's expensive to change out all of your menus, and that's why I think some people settle with keeping the same and, you know, maybe only seasonally switching things. So since we've opened 7 months, we're at like 320 different beers we've had here, which almost is something like 2 new beers a day average since opening. And that's something we think is pretty cool, and it's been well received, and people, you know, want to join our Twitter, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, because a lot of those entities and platforms were mentioning these new beers that are coming on, and like Twitter links with our menu, and as soon as something changes, it automatically tweets what new beer is on. And so there's at least 5 or 6 people that come in here based on just paying attention to Twitter, and oh, I've been awaiting this one. The menu also indicates what's coming on tap soon, and so they can see it rotating on the bottom of the menu. Oh, this new Midnight Sun, whatever, and it allows people to get excited, and then they're looking at your social media. It's new for Fairbanks, and we're happy to be the ones to introduce it.
For sure.
Pardon me. So, Brett, you've taken us into the social media really quick. Before we go into your social media presence, explain to the students why you don't serve food. So they don't recommend that, oh, if they only serve food. So explain that philosophy before, and know that that's not an option at this point.
So I'll do just a moment of background. My true business plan here comes from a place that I worked at in Salem, Oregon, called B Squared Taphouse. And I just happened to stumble upon it one afternoon when I was living in Salem, and I thought the concept was brilliant. And one of the concepts that I thought was the most brilliant was that they didn't serve food. Being involved with, obviously, my mom having a restaurant for so long, I've seen the struggles with owning a restaurant, with not only hiring good personnel, with keeping them happy, with keeping food costs down, with keeping food safe, sanitary, at the right temperature, utensils. It's just like a huge entity. So when I saw that this tap house could work so brilliantly and so streamlined without having food, and with having a food truck option many days of the week, it clicked. It made so much sense to me. I was like, wow, you can have a successful business with focusing really heavily on education as far as the product that you do have, and you don't have to have food. I mean, you can leave the food up to someone else, which is great in my opinion. You can bring your own food. It was something that a lot of people looked at me like I was a little crazy, but I felt like it just made sense. I've seen it work in other areas. I knew that it could work here. Really focusing on really trying to help out other local businesses as well. As far as these food trucks have been popping up, it's been amazing to see how many food trucks we've had open over the past 2 years. I mean, this year alone, I feel like I've seen probably 10 new entities. So being able to offer a rotating menu option, that we aren't even involved in, has been great, and in my opinion, very well received. People will often come in. Most of the time we always have a food truck on Friday or Saturday, so people are really awaiting, like, who are you going to have this Friday? What's going on Saturday? I think with the addition, with the Sunday brunch coming to light, it's even more excitement. Like, people are ready and waiting for what's going to happen on Sundays.
Okay, so let's take you into the social media aspect. So do you have like an e-news? Do you push out through e-news at all? Do you collect emails, and do you want to do that at all?
You know, that's something that I think would be good for our business. I almost think, so my parents at Lavelles Bistro have an extensive email list, probably thousands of people on their email list. And they do push out like Tuesday tasting emails for wine events, specialty events that happen throughout the year. And seeing what they've put into their email list almost makes me kind of push it away, like, gosh, and then, you know, sometimes we'll go to junk mail, or sometimes we get a letter wrong and we're not going to the right email, and somebody's like, I thought I was on the list and now I'm not on the list. I almost want to say, in my own opinion, the email list might be something of the past. It might be something where we're really moving towards the social media that we are using being so successful. I mean, we've convinced people that are 60 plus that have never heard of Twitter, don't know what Twitter is, getting a Twitter account because they know that when we get a new beer on tap, it's going to tweet automatically. So they don't even, I'm assuming that we have some followers on Twitter that only follow us, that only created their account because they want to know what beers are coming on tap. And it kind of takes this middleman email out of the mix. We do have our own Lavelles Taphouse email, and we'll email people for business reasons, or, you know, keeping up with situations that we need to be aware of. But as far as like a mass email list of specific events, I am almost in the idea that it's not something that we'll need. But I'm not opposed to it if it's something that I feel like it gets introduced in the future.
So share with us your portfolio that you have now. It sounds like you have Twitter and you have Facebook, and what other social media platforms do you use?
I think we use Facebook predominantly. And then Twitter is so great, like Brett had mentioned before. Our digital pour system, which is our menu system, not only has its own app, but it's integrated into our Instagram and our Twitter, that it automatically tweets every time we have a new keg. And it puts it out there for, you know, a lot of these breweries that representatives or the owners of the brewery quite often have probably never been to Alaska. So when they see a little tap house in Fairbanks, Alaska, just putting their beer on tap, it's very noticeable. And a lot of these larger entities have someone within their company that is focused just on social media. So we often, after seeing a tweet of a new beer that we've never had go on tap, we'll get attention from that brewery right away as far as retweets or favorites, and we'll always go on our own personal accounts and retweet any business activity or announcements that are going out, big news, stuff like that. We also have an Instagram account. I would say at this point our Instagram account is our least used social media entity, and it's probably because I'm in charge of it. But we do try to get some really good pictures of our establishment when we're having events. When we introduced Bloody Marys for the first time, we got a really beautiful picture of the first Bloody Mary ever sold in here. So there's some really good kind of timeline activities that is nice for us to look at.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it a Bloody Mary with vodka?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So we do.
You mentioned it for the brunch. I'm like, oh, it must be a beer Bloody Mary, but it's traditional Bloody Mary.
Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing, there's so many interesting state laws about liquor in any state, but in Alaska, if you do not serve food, you have to have a full liquor license. So if you only have a beer and wine license, 50% of your sales has to be from food. So it's a very unique kind of situation where, if you really think about it, it's kind of backwards. I think that if you have liquor, you should have to have food. And if you have beer and wine, you should be able to get away with not having food. But with that said, we do have a full liquor license, and we've taken advantage of it on small occasions. We don't want to be the kind of place that we don't have shot glasses. We don't even have an ice machine. So if somebody wanted a gin and tonic, quite honestly, we don't have the means or the wherewithal to do that. For special occasions for the Kentucky Derby, we did mint juleps, and that was really cool. We experimented with different recipes and came up with something very unique and kind of our own twist on it. With the Bloody Marys, we've stayed true to a very well-received Bloody Mary mix, and so we had a woman in here this past Sunday that was like, I've told all my friends about this Bloody Mary, and somebody a week before that said it was the second best Bloody Mary they'd ever had. I was like, well, hey, somebody has to be the second best. So it's been very cool to introduce these like small entities where we can serve liquor, but we're not going overboard.
So I didn't mean to get you off track,
Yes.
but I had to know about the Bloody Mary. Okay, so go back to social media. So we have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram is least used.
Yep.
And I guess where do you want to give the students some guidance? Where's the most interaction with your fans? Is it through Facebook? It sounds like not through Instagram quite yet. And
Definitely.
Twitter you mentioned Twitter being pretty active.
Twitter, we've been big fans of personally using it, but collectively, I don't think the masses and the middle-aged people that are a lot of the demographic we're trying to hit are as active or even have a Twitter. So I'd say that Facebook is where we really kind of put everything into one basket, as far as if we're posting anything relevant, as far as today I'm going to make a post about our going to winter hours, Facebook's going to be the first platform I turn to, and that's where we're getting the most shares and the most comments and questions and inquiries, and it's cool because we don't have any signs that say like us on Facebook. It's just kind of been this reception of people like going out of their way to truly like us on Facebook and follow for their own accord. But yeah, Instagram could use some help. Twitter will go mention the same things we do on Facebook, but it's not getting the same reception as Facebook for sure. As far as paid advertising, we've had a couple different things we've posted on Facebook, which you can pay a certain daily amount, and it's really interesting. It like shows you a map of Fairbanks, and there's this circle that you can move, and it says about how many people you would come into contact with in the number, like 46,000 over this area, 51,000 over this area. And what's cool about Facebook is it gives you the analytics of this demographic you're hitting down to the age range, gender, how many clicks, it's really specific. And Twitter is the same, but since we don't have as big of a following there, Facebook is where we really pay attention to those kind of stats and numbers. And it's amazing that you could make this post and it's hitting 15,000 people over a couple days, because when you think of Fairbanks, you're not thinking of a number bigger than 100,000, and to hit almost 20% of the region you're living with a post for a small amount of money, it's pretty big.
Well, I love hearing the creative things that you're doing with this business, and 7 months and you're successful. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you've got a good social media plan going on, and I think, Brett, you handle it for the most part. Mm-hmm. So where do you want help from the students? What can they help you do?
I think there's a lot that these guys will be able to help us with, as far as just utilizing it to its full potential, and also just a bunch of creative minds that are studying this specific social media in general, just the feedback and all the brains being put together and the different suggestions.
So what is it, Arlette and Brett, that you must see that you want to make sure that they cover in the plan, so that they know some of the expectations?
I'd like to see a devised plan about how we think our Instagram could kind of get a bump up in the right direction. I don't think either of us have had enough time to kind of study, even if it's not local competitors, throughout the lower 48, mm-hmm. or I know there's a lot of tap houses specifically in Oregon. I just haven't taken the time to go onto their Instagram, see what they're doing, see what's working for them, what's been well received. I'm not necessarily out for the most likes, but I'm out for what people want to see. Exposure.
Interaction, I think, is where you want to go.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that would need some help with our Twitter is just kind of going through followers. Like, we haven't really spent time we have a lot of followers to the own Lavelles Taphouse page, but we don't follow a lot of other people. And I think that's a lapse in the interaction is, again, we need to see, you know, what are other people doing and how can we boost each other here together. So I think I haven't looked recently, but I think we only follow a handful of people on Twitter. It might be 10 or 15. It's a small amount. And it's just because neither of us have taken the time to sit down and explore and decide as a business who is the correct
So maybe
clientele.
some recommendations. And
Absolutely.
who to follow and why.
Yes, for sure. As far as Facebook goes, I think, some just feedback in general about, again, competition, what might be working for other people, what would work best for us. Maybe helping with some ideas as far as like photos go to boost interaction with the business, because I find often
one of the main things too is like when to post. I mean, there's studies out there regarding like, is it going to be better to post at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. From what we've done, and then going forward, after analyzing and assessing, I mean, tell me what you think. Like, we want help from people that know what they're talking about.
Well, you're going to get it.
for sure.
And I think you mentioned that you have about 2 to 3 hours a week to dedicate to social media.
Something like that, yeah.
Because that's key.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're already doing it. So
And
maybe making better use of the time or more of a planned use of the time.
Right.
And I think going into winter, and I think, again, coming upon our 1 year mark, we're really kind of still figuring things out as we go. So if we maybe choose in the future, it's best for us to make a dedicated time that we do focus on this with the timing that's best to post and the timing that's best for us in our lives to focus on, you know, this is our social media time and that's the same time every day. Or maybe it fluctuates just a little bit, but that's one thing that sometimes it's just the two of us working an 8 or 10 hour shift here. So if it's really busy, we don't have time to go in the back and get on the computer or do something on our phone. So if we know if there's something scheduled into our lives where, hey, this is the time that it's not super busy right now, you want to go do this, or I'll go do this, let me go to a quiet space and do what I need to do. You know, we're still working, but it's important, very important. So I think just we're ready for whatever suggestions and help that we can get.
All right, so we're almost to the end. What else do you want to add that we haven't captured that you want to convey to the students?
I mean, I think we're very open. I think the unique idea with both of us is that we're very open to new ideas or concepts, even within the business, how it's run. I mean, as far as social media, but just as far as small things about when we first opened up, we had a very specific place where our ringing in POS system, point of sale system was, and throughout the first few weeks, we were like, wow, this really isn't working for us. Like, where would this be better suited? Where do we want our flow of traffic to come in? And that was something that we moved. And it was, sometimes people are very against change, but I think being new business owners, it's very important for us to be super open to new ideas and preferences of others. And we're not closed-minded at all when it comes to, you know, what we serve as far as beverages and how we serve them, and you know, the lineup and the flow of traffic. So I think one thing to be very staunch about is that we're just open. We're like open books, really.
Right.
I am, for sure.
And I'd welcome anybody that is in Fairbanks to just come by and check it out if you're 21.
Or with your parent.
Yeah. So not even to order a beverage unless you want to, but I mean, just whoever's in our group, just come by and see for yourself and just get a feel for like how things are here. And one thing we think is really awesome is like you can walk in here any given time. There's going to be an age range that could be like 21 to 85. That's one thing we think is great, is the age variation. You know, young professionals, old professionals, construction worker, whoever. I mean, there's just this great mix of folks that comes in, and you kind of just have to see for yourself to understand, and not understand, because I mean, everyone can understand having a beer, but I mean, just coming in and it's this great mixture of people that, you know, there would never be an inappropriate time to bring your toddler in if you and your wife want to have a glass of wine after going grocery shopping or something. Like, this isn't a hoop and holler in type of place where there's, towards the end of the night, it's going to be really rowdy in there. Like, it's never like that. And that's something that we've really strived to create, this image of bring your family, like, or bring your date, like, and everyone can coexist. It's pretty cool.
Might we mention, is it okay to mention that you have a baby on the way?
Yes.
And gelling as a family yourself, and so you not only embrace this concept, you're living this concept.
Very much so. Very much.
Sure.
So great advice. I think Brett and Arlette are saying you need to come in and absorb the ambiance. So students, you are doing yourself a disservice if you don't come in to Lavelles Taphouse and check it out. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.